A couple of weeks ago, I was able to touch a little bit on the prodigal son. More importantly than the son or the sons is the father's response and what he's looking to do. So I wanted to expand a little bit on that more. As Francis Chan talked about in his book, Until Unity, he says this. He says, the father's goal for each of his sons was to come together and to celebrate with him at the table. And that's ultimately what that story is about, right? You've got the prodigal son who goes away, goes into the world, does his own thing, rebukes the father. And then at the end of the story, we see the older son who refuses to come to the celebration, refuses to come to the table because he cannot believe the kindness and the kind of treatment and welcoming that the younger one is getting when he's been there the whole time, right? And the fatted calf hasn't been killed for him. The robe has not been placed upon him or the ring. And I get that as being someone who grew up in the church and feels like I never did anything wrong, right? There comes this sort of self-righteous mentality. And this is what I talked about on Sunday is, can you lay this before the Lord and say, burn this up in me, God? One of the things that's lost in our current culture is family dinner, right? Every day at 5:30 p.m., 6, whatever. For a long time in our country, there was a time when families just got together and had dinner. And around the dinner table, you talked about your day, you celebrated your wins and mourned your losses together. You prepared for the evening in bed, you prepared for what was ahead in the week, but the point was, it was a time of celebration and connection. This isn't just something that is modern or was new. This is something that has always been in the Israelite families and what Christ himself talked about the importance of. We know that so many of his decisions and his teaching times came around the table with his disciples or with others that he was eating with. When you look at Revelation, John talks about this great feast, this dinner where we will celebrate. And I wanted to look at that for a second here. When you look at the prodigal sons, there's not a contract. The father doesn't wait for the younger son to show that he is actually repentant, to show, spend a year working and earning his way back in. He immediately throws this celebratory dinner and invites everybody to come. And the one person who refuses to come is someone who his heart desperately wants to be there, and it's his oldest son. And his oldest son has this immaturity in his heart that says, I cannot be there with someone like that. I cannot be there with someone who, and he may even have really good excuses, right? With someone who would mistreat your name, who would take all of your resources and throw them before the pigs. And the father, right? His heart grieves because what does he want? He wants to celebrate with his sons around the table. The truth is, what the father is after is relationship. Both of his sons, that both of them would come together, that he could celebrate with both of them, both of their victories. And maybe for us as a church today, that's something we need to recognize, that it's not about who's at the table or who deserves to be at the table or who should have a better seat at the table, but it's about the fact that we've all been invited to the table. And for the church, we desperately need this. Your local church needs it. You need to be a part of it. You need to say, God, take away my sin, but maybe more importantly, God, take away this righteousness that I hold on to, my good deeds, my following you, and I built up this list of performance. Jesus, take that from me too. I want to celebrate at the table. I want to celebrate at the table with the one who's just come to you. I want to celebrate at the table with one who has betrayed me and hurt me, but has come home in repentance. I want to celebrate with you, Lord. That's the joy of the Lord. That's the joy of the supper. Maybe this week, that's what we need to be reminded of, that his joy is not in what we can do for him, but his joy is coming to the table and celebrating with him.